Hello,
Wonderful.
everyone. I am Dan Wood with Draft to Digital, and I'm excited today to have Janet Hagan Wallace with me. Hi, Janet.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Dan, for
Janet,
having me.
I got to know Janet a couple of years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but through Utopia Con,
Mhm.
which
Cool.
Janet has ran Utopia Con for years and years, and just a incredible conference experience aimed mostly at young adult authors. Would you say?
Yes.
Um, and so I wanted to have her on as someone who has worked on conferences. Um, for those of you who don't know, back in the before times, before everything went crazy, we went to these things called conferences. Uh, that was a lot of fun. We're excited and waiting for that time to come again where we can go to conferences. So, um,
Mhm.
really just want to have Janet on. First of all, I would love to hear more about um, how you got into running and putting on author conferences, because that's always interested me, and I don't think I've ever asked you about it.
Well, I was starting my own online marketing company. I was doing marketing and advertising for years, in New York and whatnot. And I decided to start Social Deviance, which was like my online marketing company back in 2011. And I got my first iPad in April of 2011. And that little icon that has Kindle on it
Yeah.
changed my reading habits. So I went from reading about a book a month to 3 to 5 a week. And when I really discovered these 99-cent paranormal YA books written by female authors, indie authors out there, I just could not get enough of them, couldn't get enough of them. And what they didn't realize was at the time I was trying to build this other business and get clients. There's a lot of hustle that goes into that. There's a lot of systems and structures that you're
Yeah.
putting in place. And I would be working these really long days doing all of that. And by the end of the day, I'd be just wiped, right? So I would unwind with a book, a glass of wine, some dark chocolate, a bath, and whatever order that was in, right? And so over the course of about 6 months, I had read somewhere between 65 and 70 books. Um, and I thought, these women have no idea that they're literally helping me build my business, because I needed that escape so bad to unwind at the end of the day. And I was like, what can I do to give back to these people? And so I was actually in a writing group at the time. We have a little kidlit group here in Nashville where I am based. And I went to my regular weekly writing group, and I said, hey, who wants to start a YA paranormal writing event for women authors? And all these hands went up. And so, what does a busy person who's trying to put together a business do but start a whole other business at
Yeah.
the exact same time? What could go wrong, right? So
Yeah.
I remember
Perfect
it
plan.
was it was November 2011, and the first Utopia Con was like really like July 4th weekend of 2012. I'm like, who books on July 4th weekend? But we did. So and at the time we asked authors 6 months out, right? Because we had just started, if they could be there. They're like, oh, that's way too far in the future. I can't plan that far ahead. And now look at it, it's so different. You have
I
to
know.
you have to ask authors and people like yourself almost 2 years in advance sometimes. Well, I'm booked through 2022, or I'm booked,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So now not so much. Right now, not so.
I mean, there are just so many events. I remember when I first started at Draft to Digital, the traditional industry just had a handful of events, and then there were events that were kind of like go to this event to try to find an agent, because that was the only way to get published back then. And
Mm-hmm.
now with the indie movement, there's been just this proliferation of events, and you have to schedule people way in advance.
Way in advance. Um, and so that's how it started. It was just one of those things. I wanted to give back. I wanted to find a way to do it. And at the time, it was young adult only, paranormal only for the most part, and women authors only for the first like 2 events, I think. And then after that, it really started to branch out, and romance was taking off like crazy at that time. And we had a bunch of male authors come in and join the group, and NA became really popular, new adult became really popular after that, and so it's branched out. So we're not strictly YA supernatural anymore. We're everything, and all the way through from the very beginning to now, it's always been traditional and indie, because I felt like each side had things that they needed to learn.
Yeah.
Indie was able to get to market so much faster, and they were really in touch with trends and being able to stay on top of trends. And traditional had so much insight into going international and building a career and long-term type things. And I thought there's a way that we can talk about how to make this industry better and learn from each other. And really, honestly, it's like, I feel like indie traditional, it's more of a personality fit than anything, isn't it? It's like, either you like complete control over your stuff, or you don't want to have anything to do with it at all, and you just want to write the damn books.
And I feel like, early on it was an either or. People try to make it an either or, and it was almost like a religion, like ideological war. Now it's for many people, they're going to end up being both, and that hybrid thing is really catching on. I know we have a ton of authors who were traditionally published for 30 years and are now indie, or at least partially indie. And we have a lot of authors that started their careers as indie and got their contracts with traditional publishers because of their success. So
agreed. And I think people enjoy being indie too, because there's some stuff that just the traditional market doesn't know how to market well or isn't interested in currently.
And you were talking about the paranormal YA stuff you were finding back at the very beginning, and traditional publishing at that point was just kind of that stuff is sold out. Like nobody wants that anymore. That was not at all the case. The agents and editors were tired of seeing it, and so they moved to something else. Readers were still there.
Exactly.
That's great. Obviously, with COVID-19, this has been a weird year. As someone who plans these events, what are some things people might not know about what organizers are facing? I feel like if we talked a little bit about that, maybe it'll help people be more patient. As obviously everyone wants to have these events, but they have to be safe. Obviously, people want to get their money back as soon as possible, but often the organizers are on the line for money and are just trying to figure out what to do. So what are your thoughts, and how has that affected you?
Well, it's been tough. I'm not going to lie. And it's one of those things. The bottom line is you have to communicate. Everything that we can talk about here, about ways that I've done it in my experience with not only my own events, but with client events that I take care of. I can tell you different ways that people have done it, but the most important thing is honest communication. You may not please everyone, and some people, everyone's hurting.
Yes.
The people who paid for their table and their spot at the signing are hurting, and the people who put their money on the line for the events, like myself, are hurting as well. I had 4 events scheduled in 2020. 3 of them were client events, and 1 was my own event in Scotland. And, I didn't get paid my last balance deposit for one of the events, like one of the client events. And I've had to reschedule another one and treat it almost like a brand new event, and find a new way of charging for that. And it's been really a real big learning curve. The most important thing is to be as honest and open with your attendees as you can, because I will tell you, as someone who creates multiple events for myself, a lot of the times you've put deposits down yourself and the money is gone. Yes. Right? The money isn't there to give back to the attendees. And so it's one of those things, can it be rescheduled? If so, I encourage those people who are creating events to reschedule it. If it absolutely cannot be rescheduled, what are the priorities? What can you do? Can you return some of it? Can you, is there a way to give them credit to a future event that you haven't created that yet, but that you will? There's ways to talk about it. Just be open. Like, you know, guys, the deposits are gone. Like, this is what I have to do now. And
Yeah,
you
you
know,
have to think about the long-term future. I know for us, we had already paid sponsorships for many events that didn't end up happening or switched over to a different format, like a virtual online
yes,
format.
and
Um,
that's an option as well.
yeah, you
I've
know,
seen
like
several online formats.
we don't get as much out of an online format as we do the in-person networking.
Mhm.
However, this is about the long term. It's not about like just right now. And so we're working with all of them. You know, sometimes it's we get a credit next year towards our sponsorship, stuff like that. So
Right, exactly. And that's it. And to be perfectly honest, every single person that I have talked to has been amazing.
that's awesome.
It's everybody's coming together. Everybody's like, okay, what can we do? This is brand new for everyone. This is like
Yeah.
a new crisis. It wasn't under the terms and conditions of the contracts.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. So it's like, all right, how can
It's not covered under insurance. Hotels aren't just letting people off the hook. They are, I mean, they're hurting. And so they are squeezing people for money.
Well, and to that point, you know, I had Utopia 2021, which is our 10-year reunion next summer, which is still happening. But, you know, I've had my hotel reps be laid off.
Yeah.
They're gone. So I've had to find new hotels, new reps. There's a lot of juggling going on. I was hoping on this particular interview to actually announce the hotel for 2021. And I just haven't been able to do that yet because it's still, you know, the waters are crazy right now. But again, most people just be honest and do the best you can, and people will work with you. People in this community have really, if they can, they come together.
Yes.
You know, so there's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I think a lot of times it's not what happens to you, it's how you handle what happens to you.
Yeah.
It's your reaction to the thing, you know? So
I love how the indie author community, especially, they come together over things. They're not, in general, they don't see each other as competition in a way that I think, when there were a limited number of spots to get published, authors were a little bit more at odds with each other. And so, just been really cool, all the examples of that I've seen over the years. And I think it's really paid off the relationships you've built with authors, with readers. You know, for you really has helped them trust that you'll do the right thing. And yeah, that honesty is just a huge approach. I want to talk a little bit about.
They've seen me make mistakes, and I try to always make amends for the mistakes that I have made. You know, so that's the best you can do.
Yeah, none of them are perfect. Yeah,
right.
Utopia Con, about how many people, like for the last Utopia Con, how big was it?
The last Utopia Con, the numbers were down actually for the 2017 event because we grew year over year for the first 5 events. I know that I was keeping track for the first 4. So there were 80 people at the very first Utopia Con, and 40 of them were comped.
Yeah.
They were the authors that I had invited at the time. I didn't make authors pay for tables or anything like that. It was more of a conference. It wasn't really a signing until the next year. And so then between the first year and the 4th year, it grew 10 times in size. So we had, you know, it got really big. And then the 5th year was even bigger. And I think the largest it ever got was around 2,000 attendees, which is not the biggest event out there, but it was wonderful. It was really great. And to watch the community grow. And we really cultivated and nurtured a spirit of welcoming. There's room for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has cycles of success, and being the new kid and the newbie is tough sometimes. And it's nice to have one of your idols become a mentor and friend along the way. And we have a lot of that in our community. And it just sort of snowballed and grew all the time. So it was really wonderful to see that happen within the community. And other events, people who would come to our event would say, how do I want to do this in my town? I'd be like, go do it.
Yeah.
Go create your event. And so you'd see all these, you'd see the pollination happen, and you'd see other events pop up. And I think that was one of the most thrilling things, was to see it take flight other places. But boy, it's not easy creating events. So I hope that I made it look easy for a while anyway.
You did. It's a very close-knit group, and it's a very welcoming group. As I came in, I kept hearing about it too. So like I was wanting to go for a long time before I had a chance to actually attend. Just a wonderful experience. The award ceremonies were awesome. Like, just a lot of fun. A wide variety of people. Like, one of the only critiques I might have about the indie conference world is it ends up being kind of I see the same people over and over, especially like speakers. And I thought you did a great job of just pulling in people from different places, different backgrounds.
I did a lot of research for speakers, especially for the keynotes and things like that, where I really wanted them to have a story, have a journey that they could share that was super valuable. And we tried to bring in different speakers. We did have some repeats because we had fan favorites that, CJ Redwine, I mean, her stuff would be packed every single time. What am I going to say? No. So,
sorry.
I was like, no, more, please. So but for sure, I love the diversity, and today, especially when we're talking about diversity so much, one of the things that I really wanted was more authors of color, and that was an area where I felt Utopia fell short. We had them, but the percentage was really incredibly low, and not just authors, but bloggers and vendors and stuff like that. We had people of color, but it was an area that I always wanted, and LGBTQ as well. It was an area that I always wanted to build up more and do more with. And if we were continuing to do an annual event, that's something that I would tremendously focus on. And for next year, it's not a conference. We're only going to do a 1 or 2 day event this time. So I feel like it's a missed opportunity, and I'm hoping that other events out there take the reins on that. Now I still do events, not just for clients, but smaller retreats and stuff. So
I feel like we're hearing just about every conference, like the people who organize it and then the professional organizations, they're all having that conversation and realizing that their efforts have fallen short at making minorities comfortable and getting them to the conferences. And so it's good we're talking about it. It's something that we could all work at. And so we're seeing a little bit of change, and I hope that continues. I think right now we're seeing the problems of not having enough representation across the entire publishing chain. And it leads to people, readers not finding books that reflect their story. It leads to not enough books like in the bookstores, like because the buyers and the traditional publishers tend to come from the same backgrounds. And in the indie world, we definitely see it that, like, the common speakers at conferences, it's still fairly homogenous. And so
Nadege Richards is a woman of color who created Imaginarium Festival. They had to cancel, of course, this year. This was going to be the inaugural year, but I encourage people to attend that event. I think that's going to be a really good one.
I bet it will be. You mentioned earlier that you've been working on. I had a chance to go to one of your smaller events.
Diamonds.
I think I'm hearing more and seeing more of that happening, like author retreats or special events for authors. So could you talk about some of those that you've thrown and why you're moving towards that format?
Yes. Utopia got, to me, 2,000 people is a lot of people. And all of my team was, I only had 2 people that I paid. to help me do this thing. Now, I had a ton of amazing volunteers and friends who always, and still to this day, will be the first to be like, what can I do? And I love them dearly. But when it gets to like that 2000 point, I will say that 2000 threshold, it becomes pretty overwhelming. There, you know, I didn't get to spend as much time with the people. I didn't get to have quality time. I'm working the event. I'm behind the scenes 100% of the time. On awards night is when you see me let loose and drink and hang out and get crazy because it's over, right? Yeah. But there's not a lot of quality time for things. And I also felt like Utopia was the platform for entry authors. Now, that doesn't mean that there weren't experienced authors who kept coming back because it was tribe and maybe they went from newbie to panelist to speaker over that course of time. But I thought, is there another way that I can serve and also get fulfilled? Because I was feeling spread thin. It wasn't as fun for me anymore. And that's why I started it in the first place. So I started coming up with different, you know, I did Meet the Passionistas. All of my like events, whether it's a signing or a retreat or a smaller conference or whatever, I try to create the type of event that I would want to go to. I got sick of sitting in really big hotels and seeing the same kinds of carpets and the same kinds of lighting and the same, you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
I mean, you can relate, I know.
Yeah.
And
you hear that same like cheesy music and the smell, like the cleaning smells are like all the same.
Right. And so I started with Meet the Passionistas events, which were romance signings, and they were really small. There was only 4 or 5 authors per signing. We did do those in bookstores, but I made sure that there were chocolates and flowers and that we did a Q&A with the authors before we did the signing and those kinds of things. And then with Diamonds in the Rough and Diamonds in the Desert, which was the complimentary signing to Diamonds in the Rough, the small conference that you attended in Arizona, the focus was actually on editing and polishing the manuscript. So it was, the first draft had already been done. So this conference was about what happens after the draft is done. What can you do to polish that gem, right? And get it out there. So it was from the editing to the marketing. And remember that great advertising and marketing session that we had there where we all just sat in a circle on the floor, and it was just this round robin of everyone sharing ideas rather than 3 people at a table sharing their ideas. Everyone contributed and everyone asked questions, and it was that's where the magic happens, right? Yeah. So plus that hotel was way cool.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a way cool boutique hotel.
Having record players and records in your hotel room was very cool.
Yeah, and their lobby was great. And so, and then I have next chapter retreats. Now, these I started in 2015. In 2014, I'd been doing the Utopia Con for 3 years at this point. And at the end of 2014, I actually sent out a survey of questions to, I want to say it may have been 25, 30 authors. And I asked questions. If you hear my lawn guy over the...
No, I don't hear it, but yeah.
He's literally like using the leaf blower right now. So, and I sent out a questionnaire of like 20, 30 questions that said, you know, because all of these women had been coming to Utopia and they'd hit the lists and they were making 6 figures. And at 2014, KBP had just started, you know, so that had cut people's income in half, and around that time. And so we were talking about what did they need next in their career? What is it they wanted next? Was it to get their book option? Was it to do audiobooks? Was it international rights? Was it to make, you know, multiple 6 figures? What was that for them? And so I created Next Chapter retreats in response to the answers I got. And I would pick where Utopia Con was in Nashville and is in Nashville every single year. These retreats, I would pick locations that I thought were cool. So the first one was in Palm Springs, and we did one in Paris. We did one in New York, Oregon, Scotland. Well, it was going to be this year, but it'll be next year. And each retreat focused on a specific issue that authors wanted to focus on. So the one in Palm Springs was all about film and television, and how to be part of that process. Because I feel like authors are left out of that sort of process a lot. You know, they get the agent,
They
they get
are.
it, it gets options, and then it sits on a shelf and it doesn't do anything. And I happen to have a friend who's a Writers Guild of America award winner, and she's the co-executive producer of Little Fires Everywhere right now. And she wrote the updated jukebox musical version of Valley Girl that's streaming right now. So I brought her in as my expert to sit down, completely informal, for 2-3 hours and just talk and answer questions for the women. And then I also shared my insights and my sort of mindset pieces. I'm all about, you can do all the marketing in the world, but if your mindset's not there, then it won't work. And so I did a lot of the mindset pieces, and we all got together and ate and swam and hung out. It was great. And so each one had a different topic to focus on, and they went really well. I loved the vibe. Plus, it just gives you a chance to experience. You know, we did the Orient Express for one, and we had Charlene Harris on the trip with us.
That's
you know,
awesome.
come on, like just spending 3, 4, 5 days with Charlene Harris. It was amazing. It was incredible. And the wealth of information that you get from people who've made a career out of whatever area we were talking about, that fills you up. But I will tell you something, on these retreats, they're really cool experiences, but the coolest stuff is what happens in the white spaces between all of the stuff written on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's happening at the bar with 2 people who met, who are big A players, and they sit down and they start talking, and all of a sudden they've created a new series together, or they've exchanged marketing ideas, or they've created a lasting friendship. I mean, that's, you know, I can't schedule that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's something you miss out. The virtual format, you can get like the panels, you can get the PowerPoint presentations, but you can't recreate that in-person networking vibe. Just a quick reminder, everyone, in about 5 minutes, we're going to open it up to questions for Janet. So if you've got any questions, go ahead and start posting those in the comments. Otherwise, I have about 1 million questions. So we'll get that going here in a little bit. I want to delve in a little bit more into that last set of comments. For an author who has not yet gone to a conference, what would you tell them as far as if they're asking, is a conference really worth going to? What are your thoughts about where the value is, what all they can get out of it?
I say do it. I absolutely say do it. And I mean, right now, obviously, I'm speaking from a point of view of we're not having to face COVID-19, okay?
Yeah.
That is a different thing altogether. But from the perspective of what can being there in person do for you that watching the videos afterward or doing a virtual one doesn't really do, is the connection piece. You make friends, real friends that last a lifetime. You get deeper into discussions. You're able to not only ask a question, but then find the person later and do a follow-up question if something comes to you. Yeah. Not that you can't reach out on the internet and do that to someone, but there's something about being in the moment and being there and getting that experience. I think it does wonders for confidence. I think it does wonders when you see that there's other people in the same boat as you, and you don't feel, you know, authors can feel like islands, right? They go to their writing cave and they're stuck there, and maybe they don't have a great writing group or a critique group or beta readers to go to. And these conferences allow them an opportunity to bond and to exchange information and to learn and to grow and to become the mentor eventually and pass that on and share it. And I think there's something that's so powerful in live events and in that type of connection with people. Man, I know I ramble on, but clearly I'm passionate about this stuff. So
it is. I mean, that's why I love that you throw all these different types of events, because authors need them. Like I think finding your tribe of like your author community is incredibly important, because it is such a I can't think of exactly what word I'm looking for, but it's such a lonely job, and you're generally sitting by yourself. And like some people overcome that by like having sprint groups and different stuff like that. But for the most part, you're spending a lot of time in your own head. having a chance to interact with people and talk about things you can't really talk about with normal other friends, like thriller authors and mystery authors. You can't really sit around and talk about different ways to kill people and creative ways to kill people in normal, polite conversation, right?
Right, sex scenes. Boy, have I heard that one.
Yeah, but like having that chance to talk to other people who are doing the same thing you're doing is priceless. And yeah, it's a lot less intimidating asking questions over dinner or over drinks than it is like just emailing them out of the blue or messaging them out of the blue.
Well, and everyone is at the same time is in the right headspace for it. You know, a lot of times when you reach out on the internet, people have 17 things going on. They have kids or other obligations, or they're in the middle of something. When you're at a conference, everyone is there and directed, and they're in that zone, you know? So if you have an issue, guaranteed 15 other people have the same issue, and you can heartstorm. I call it heartstorming instead of brainstorming, where you can heartstorm around how can we solve this problem, or how can we make this better or improve upon this or whatever. And that's invaluable. Plus, man, the memories don't come up for virtual events on Facebook.
Yeah.
When you get those memories pop up of Utopia Con, I mean, June for me on Facebook is gold. It's literally like memory after memory of Utopia Cons from 10 years ago.
Yep.
So it's pretty spectacular. And you know, you find new restaurants with people that you get to talk about, and you know, whatever that is, you drool over models together, or whatever that thing is for you. It's fun.
It's always fun to see my my phone, you know, kind of randomly shows pictures from things that happened around this time last year. And so seeing just pictures of the conferences I was at and the people I was hanging out with, I have a cool job. So I've gotten to travel kind of all over the world talking to authors. Those pictures mean a lot to me.
Oh, I was going to try to get my cat for you.
I do like your fish tank in the back there. I'd seen the light earlier, but I hadn't seen the fish. That's cool.
Yeah, it's probably making you look like I have a crazy glow. But yeah, we've got 6 fish back there.
It kind of looks like a halo. Like you got a halo right over here.
Or yeah.
I had this comment from Tina. As a fan, these book cons are amazing. I loved Utopia. It became my yearly trip. I met the kindest and most amazing authors, friends for life.
Tina, it's so good to see you. I love that you came to watch this. I hope you're doing well. I miss you. I love hearing that kind of stuff. And that never gets old to me when I get messages or emails, or if it's not even to me, if they're just telling each other that they miss their Nashville friends, they mean all of the authors that come together, you know? I love seeing that.
I spent a lot of time talking about the author angle of this, but the fan angle, like what all it means to fans. And I think authors sometimes underestimate how much their fans want to connect with them. Hey, I would love to hear some of your strategy. Like you were great with UTOPiAcon about getting fans there. Like it's not always easy. It's not a normal thing for conference organizers to get the fan element. So what's some advice you would give there, and your thoughts just about connecting fans with authors?
Okay. Well, there's a couple things. One, make awkward totally okay. I mean, you know, because I think for authors, like, oh, I don't know, I'm so weird and I'm an introvert, I'm super awkward. Then be that thing. Be awkward and weird and whatever. Fans love that, and they just want to see you and be part of that experience. And as far as getting fans there, UTOPiAcon was word of mouth for its entire run, which is probably why the numbers went down in that last year, because there was just so much competition at that time. But I think word of mouth happens because of the experience that you create for the people who are there and what that means for them. And authors are really good about talking to their own fans. You just have to encourage them to keep doing that thing. Yes, you should take ads, and yes, you should reach out to your local radio station and wherever else you think that you can put it into the calendars and the weeklies and all of that stuff. Do all of those things, but make it a remarkable event. And what I mean by that is that make it an experience worth making a remark about, because there's nothing more powerful than word of mouth. And that comes from the quality of the people you have there and the type of environment that you nurture. You know, I hold myself very responsible for the vibe that we create. If there's a lot of complaining and negativity and BS floating around, that's on me. I have to set the tone, even if no one sees me. So that all boils down to, who do I surround myself with on my team? How do we handle the problems that come up at events? Because there are always problems. I don't care how many times you do an event and how rock star you are.
Yeah.
I do not care. Something always happens. And there's always people that find things to complain about anyway, right? You know, but you learn more.
I wish I could share some of the crazy stories I've heard from organizers about just stuff happening behind the scenes. Out of respect for them, I won't, but it's just amazing. Yeah.
We all have them. But and again, it's how you handle it, right?
Yeah.
You hold that space. It is on you to hold the space, to make sure that you don't lose your cool, and to find a way to fix whatever problem is there, and to make sure people are having a good time. You know, in the early days when it was not as many people, it was really easy for me to go to every single table and make sure that I talked to every single author that came and went. Yeah. I will tell you that I'm not great with names and faces. And there were times when I didn't remember that someone had come and stuff like that. And I feel horrible when that happens. But I try to talk to every single person, whether they're a New York Times bestselling author or the brand new debut author that's right next to them that Indie publishes. Yeah. You know, we sit them together for a reason. Everyone's in the same room. There's nobody separated from anybody, you know, that kind of stuff. We make sure that they can all talk and learn together. And man, there are good people. There are good people out there. They want to help. They're so sweet and kind. Just everyone just wants to be heard. Everyone just wants to be accepted, right? You know,
I mean, right now is a very divisive time, but we're all more alike than we're different. And
absolutely,
the more we embrace that, the better. Where do you find future events? Are there ever a summary of past events with information that could be beneficial to new authors?
Dang, that's a really good.
It is a good. I don't think there's a resource like that out there right now.
Well, you know what's interesting is that the Utopia Con website, and this is, I'm going to be like showing some major. 2017 was the last event. In 2018, I actually decided to transition the Utopia Con website. You won't see it if you go there now because it's not transitioned, and that's why I'm showing my my site. But anyway, I wanted a place where you could review events, including my own. Yeah. I've seen, I've heard crazy stories where people have run off with money or whatever, you know, and I wanted it to be kind of I wanted it to be a review site for, if you can review books, you should be able to review vendors and designers and.
Yeah. And talk about what level it's at, because there are conferences that are aimed at people who are new, and there are ones that are aimed at people who
are advanced.
Yeah. They know Facebook ads.
Warren's event.
Yeah.
Is outstanding for advanced authors. I highly recommend it for people.
That's something, a great resource, or something like I might even just have our team work on a blog post or something about that on our end.
Yeah.
Just from what we've seen. Lisa asked, how did you initially build your network of authors?
Okay. Lisa and I went to college together. I am stoked
awesome.
to see her on this. Hi, Lisa. What was the question again?
How did you initially build your network of authors?
Well, I read all the books, and then I emailed them all and invited them. And there were these amazing authors who took a chance on me and my first event, and they all helped me make it a massive success year after year. And I cultivated those relationships, and that's how I built my stable of authors. Plus my team. I mean, my team reads more books than I do even, and so we just all, you know, let's invite this person and let's invite this person and let's, you know, get that person to speak and all of that. That's really how I built my network, is I just reached out to people.
Were you nervous at all to reach out to them, or like, it's your personality type, you don't mind asking?
Well, a little bit of, I mean, I do it. Don't say no before they say no. Yeah. You know, don't be the person that's standing in your own way, right? Write a professional letter if you have someone read it before you send it, and make the ask. If you do have some events under your belt, that's good. But again, at the beginning, a lot of these authors were new indie authors in 2011, 2012 anyway, and they were craving. There wasn't anything like it at the time. They were like, what? You want me to come to your event? I'm like, yeah, I do. And so that was it. Make the ask. Always make the ask. But I still get giddy when I get the big authors, like Charlene Harris or whoever, who's like, yeah, I'll come hang out with you.
That's awesome. Sydney says, Janet, you are a queen. Crying thinking about all of my good memories at Utopia Con for all 6 years.
Hi, Sydney. I love Sydney.
There's a ton of comments like that. I want to highlight a handful of them, but Tina says, hi, Dan. Janet always puts on a great event, professional, fun, and chock full of information with great memory making activities. Can't wait to see you both again soon.
Tish was at Diamond with us.
Yes.
Dan. Yeah, Tish was at Diamond.
I cannot wait until conference. I am so stir crazy to get out of. We're based out of Oklahoma City. I want to get the hell out of Oklahoma and go somewhere interesting.
Right?
So sorry to any fellow Oklahomans out there.
Let's wear our masks so we can get the hell out of here.
Yeah. I encourage you all to be very responsible and safe, but I am very ready for conferences to start back up.
Sydney lives actually here in Nashville, by the way, and I consider her a dear friend. She's one of the most creative people I know. She's a great author, but she does so much more than just that. I want to show you all of her artwork right now, but thank you for saying
awesome. Mindy says, can you give us any teasers or hints about what you're planning for Utopia 2021?
I can. The theme for Utopia 2021 was decided on back at the last event in 2017. Everyone picked superheroes, and so the hashtag is Stories of Bravery, which now is our idea of what a hero is has changed a lot. I see a lot of nurse outfits and doctor outfits that I think those are real heroes today. And the Stories of Bravery, my goal, and please, if anyone out there is listening and you can help me make this happen, please, I want to collect stories of bravery from the authors who started 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and I want to hear your story. I want to hear how you were brave, and I want to put together videos that we can play at the conference so that we can hear your story of bravery and what you've overcome in your journey. That's the big goal. So, but I need help to do that. I can't do it all myself.
That would be great.
And Melissa Stevens from the Illustrated Author created this year's logo, which I am going to unveil at the same time that I announce the hotel. And it's slick. It's very modern. We have our own, kind of in the vein of the CW superheroes, we have our own like badge that, if you were going to wear it on your chest, what it would look like. It's dope. It's so cool. And so those are the things that I can tell you. I can tell you that we have right now 50 authors signed up to attend. I do have a camp or a mini conference that's happening before it about unleashing your bravery. It has nothing to do with publishing and everything to do with what's in here and in here. And sometimes I feel like that's the toughest parts of the journey. So we do have that. That's a few days before the event itself. And of course, we will have the 10th annual Utopia Awards live, and Katie Koch will be coming back as the host of those. So that's all very exciting.
With you mentioned earlier that the Scotland retreat was going to be rescheduled. Do you have any other of the smaller retreats that are planned or on the radar?
Yes, we're doing Salem, Massachusetts in 2022. That one was actually going to be in 2021, but we're doing Salem, Mass in 2022. Usually I do domestic one year and then the next year international, and then domestic and then international. So we'll do Scotland next year. And that one is focused on really the writing and the experience. And we're going to Hogwarts and we're doing that kind of thing. So it's very experiential of the fiction. And then in Salem, we're diving into We're going to do, there's going to be a tarot training class. We're going to do a seance with some local mediums. And we have a lot of really broom making, all kinds of really fun stuff for that. There's a little bit of the kitsch, but a lot of the history as well behind the serious history behind the Salem witch trials and what tarot is and what crystals are and all of that kind of stuff that you can apply to your writing or to your life. And I'm looking forward to both of those events.
I went to with like a small group of authors that were on a research trip to Salem last year, and we had a blast. Like, there's just so much history to the town, especially around October. Like, everyone's in costume. Like, I was not expecting that because it wasn't next to Halloween. It's like early October, and
ours is the first week of October.
Yeah,
I didn't want to be
just dressed up. I think you're gonna have a blast at that one.
I'm really excited. I've been there myself, but I've never done this there. So.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about it, but to check out Jana and Utopia Con, you can go to UTOPiAcon.com. It is not updated yet, but you can check back there because you're going to be updating that for the new one, right?
Oh, absolutely. But I definitely just recommend heading to our Facebook page, the Utopia Con Facebook page, because that's where all of the information is. And I'm there. I'm always checking it. UtopiaCon.com is just like a main page, but then we have the segregated pages for the events type thing.
Gotcha.
And
so
hopefully it'll be soon.
Facebook would be the best place to find you, the Utopia Con Facebook page.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Jana. It's been a blast. I know I love going to conferences, and it's always great. I feel like I've found a lot of friends just out of the people who organize the conferences, because most of them are just incredible people. And I think every event I've been to that you've thrown has been amazing. And so
that means a lot, because you've been to a lot of events. So that means a lot.
I go to I think I averaged about 22 a year for the last 3 or 4 years. So I always enjoy it when the conference organizers are just wonderful people and make you feel welcome. So again, thank you for being here. Thank everyone who tuned in live, and please, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube or Facebook, like or subscribe. If you are listening to the podcast, please leave a review, and have a great day.
Any questions about their own events, where you can reach out to me. I'll answer any questions.
Jana is great about getting back to you, so definitely look her up. Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.